政乱19个月，叙利亚内战未平，又添外患。
We believe that we have no problems whatsoever with the Turkish people. We have no issues with the nation of Turkey. Our problem is with the support of Mr. Erdogan's government to the terrorist groups in Syria.
战事持续焦灼的叙利亚，如何才能踏上和平之路？专访叙利亚驻华大使伊马德·穆斯塔法。
大家好，欢迎收看今天的风云对话，我是阮慈山。自从叙利亚内部发生动乱，从去年3月以来，已经有3万多人伤亡。那么在这次这种动乱目前没有停止的迹象的时候呢，突然之间又发生了土耳其跟叙利亚之间的很多的近乎武装的冲突。最近2个礼拜，土耳其甚至于明令的禁止叙利亚的军机或者是民用飞机飞越它的领空，最近甚至于拦截了一部叙利亚的民用航机，说它上面载有武器。那么这种状况不禁会让大家担心，叙利亚的情况到底会发生什么样的变化？今天我们很高兴再度邀请到我们的老朋友叙利亚驻华大使穆斯塔法来跟我们分析一下土耳其这一连串的这个行动，它动机何在？对土耳其和叙利亚之间的战争也好，或者其他冲突也好，会有什么样的影响？请看我跟他之间的第一段谈话。
2012年6月22日，叙利亚军方击落一架进入其领空的土耳其战机，令两国日益恶化的关系陷入危机。10月3日，数枚从叙利亚境内发射的迫击炮弹落在土耳其境内，炸死5人。土耳其军方立即还击，对叙利亚境内目标连续6天实施炮击。10月4日，土耳其议会以国土遭袭为由，授权政府适时对叙利亚发动越境军事行动，这被外界视为土耳其军事干预叙利亚内战的前兆。
Mr. Ambassador, for the past 6 months, situation and tension between Syria and Turkey, it's incredible. People won't understand what's the reason behind this tension.
Yes, of course. We need to look at the context, at the background behind this tension. I think the Prime Minister of Turkey, Mr. Erdogan, today faces 2 major frustrations. One has to do with the internal elements in Turkey. In every single major public opinion survey that was conducted in Turkey in the past 6 months, the majority of the Turkish people expressed their opposition to his policies towards Syria.
Right.
Most of the Turkish people think that it's very unsafe for Turkey to bring Islamic fundamentalist extremists, mujahideen, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from Libya, from Yemen, from Somalia, into Turkey so that they can cross the borders to Syria to fight inside Syria. Of course, they get trained in Turkey, they get armed and financed, they live in Turkey before they cross the borders, and the Turkish population are becoming very unhappy with this. They do not support his policies in Syria. This is making him very nervous. The other important factor is that he has put all his stakes in supporting the terrorist criminal groups that are fighting inside Syria. He is financing them, he is arming them, and he is offering them political and diplomatic support. They are on the verge of being defeated, particularly in Aleppo, where they have failed big time. This is really driving him into a big problem with his international and regional image. But for the past 10 years, Turkey claimed that it wanted a zero-problem policy with its neighbors, and you look today, Turkey has problems with every neighbor it has. Russia is very angry with Turkey. Iran is very critical of the Turkish policies. Iraq has been outraged by Turkish policies. Syria is, as you know, has a very serious political crisis with Turkey. Armenia is denouncing Turkey now and saying that Turkey is bullying Armenia. The other 2 neighbors that Turkey does not have open conflict with, Greece and Bulgaria, have very deeply rooted animosity and problems with Turkey. So today Turkey has 100% problems with all its neighbors. These 3 factors really are driving Mr. Erdogan desperate to create a conflict between Syria and Turkey so that he can regroup and realign the public opinion, which is nationalistic and patriotic, and to say it's a conflict between the state of Turkey and the state of Syria, which is not true. We believe that we have no problems whatsoever with the Turkish people. We have no issues with the nation of Turkey. Our problem is with the support of Mr. Erdogan's government to the terrorist groups in Syria.
So, can you make a wild guess? What's behind his philosophy, Mr. Erdogan?
It does not need a wild guess. All experts who are knowledgeable about the region, who don't believe the stupid propaganda about freedom and democracy revolutions, know that this is an Islamic rise movement that is prevailing across our region. Mr. Erdogan is primarily an Islamist who presents himself to the Western media as a moderate, but if you look at his grassroots support in Turkey, at the rank and file elements of his party, they are fundamentalist Muslims, and he believes that with the rise of fundamentalist Islam in Egypt, in Libya, in Tunisia, in Yemen, he will become the leader of this Islamic region. So it's his personal ideology and personal ambition that is driving his policies towards Syria.
So do you have any channel or you have any negotiation with them now?
Right now we do not have any. However, Russia has suggested that a joint military committee, Turkish-Syrian, should be established so that they can discuss all issues regarding security. We immediately approved of the Russian suggestion. We think if any two neighboring countries have problems between each other, then they should sit and they should talk to each other. But I have very strong doubts that Mr. Erdogan will agree to this, because his policy really has become a zero-sum game. It's either us, himself. He cannot tolerate anymore that his plan towards Syria is falling.
10月24日，阿盟秘书长阿拉比在埃及首都开罗宣布，叙利亚政府已接受联合国阿盟叙利亚危机联合特别代表普拉西米有关在圣节期间停火的建议。大多数叙利亚反对派领导人也表示接受此建议。分析师认为，与叙利亚危机前特使安南的斡旋计划相比，普拉西米提出的停火倡议有一定的创新，因为短暂停火相对全面停火更容易操作。另有分析师认为，在广泛认可安南提出的解决叙利亚危机的6点和平计划半年后，国际社会对普拉西米所提出的倡议广泛认同，也为和平解决叙利亚危机带来一丝曙光。
Let's turn our focus to the United Nations Special Envoy, Mr. Brahimi. He encouraged Iran to play some role between your country and the rebels. Do you think Iran will accept this and is helpful?
Yes, it will be helpful, and yes, we suggest not only Iran, we welcome any regional country to play a role of mediation. You need to understand that the armed terrorist groups are only wreaking havoc in Syria. They are not achieving any success. Nowhere, nothing. Zero objectives have been achieved. The only thing that they have achieved is death and destruction across Syria. So who is benefiting from this? If any regional power, any international power can play a constructive role of mediation, we will encourage them and we will support them. We support Mr. Lakhdar al-Brahimi mission. We wish him success, because success means peace and order in Syria. Here is the problem. If peace and order will prevail in Syria, regional players like Mr. Erdogan will consider that their project for Syria has failed. So they will do everything possible to undermine the success of his mission, as they did to Mr. Kofi Annan. And this is the major challenge. How can Lakhdar al-Brahimi convince regional players like Qatar and Turkey to stop supporting the armed groups inside Syria?
据外媒报道，俄军总参谋长马卡洛夫10月24日称，叙利亚反对派拥有肩扛式导弹系统，其中包括美国制造的毒刺防空导弹。而美国国务院发言人维多利亚·纽兰当天在例行新闻发布会上则说，美国没有向叙利亚反对派提供包括毒刺导弹在内的任何致命武器，并表示美国未来也不会这么做。报道还指出，与去年利比亚危机不同，因为担心武器可能落入武装分子手中，西方国家对于向叙利亚反对派提供武装抱持谨慎态度。
Did you see any change of the attitude of the United States toward your country? Because not recently, the U.S. government admit that the weapons given to the rebels probably fall into the hands of jihadis or Al-Qaeda.
All rebels who are fighting in Syria are actually jihadists, and many of them are affiliated with Al-Qaeda, using the name Nusrat al-Islam, which means the victory of Islam. These are the actual fighters on the ground in Syria. Don't care if you see a university professor here or a secular journalist there in Paris or in Washington claiming that they support the Syrian rebels. We have no problem with these guys. Our problem is really the jihadists on the ground who are fighting inside Syria, who have an agenda that adheres to the most extreme interpretation of the Islamic law, the Sharia, and who really dream of converting Syria, which is a secular country and a country with a very long tradition of civilization and culture. They want to convert it into another Afghanistan. Of course, we will not allow them to do this. Now, did the United States of America change its position? No, it did not, because the United States has adopted the policy of let us finance these groups even if they do not succeed, but they will weaken the Syrian government, which is very good as far as the United States is concerned. What the United States really wants is to see grand chaos in Syria, and in a way or another they have up till now succeeded in this, but they will not succeed on the long term, because I believe that those groups eventually will be obliterated, will be crushed and defeated.
But if the United States supply the weapons, especially heavy weapons, to jihadis, even if they cause the problem of Syria, it won't do anything good to the United States.
The United States has already committed this mistake many times before. Remember the war on Afghanistan. Before that, they provided jihadists in Afghanistan with Stinger missiles and with advanced weaponry. Saudi Arabia was financing them. America was providing them with weapons and with training, and they gave them diplomatic and political support so that they can defeat the Soviet Union at the time. Those same jihadists fought against the Americans at a later stage. This is not new for the United States. I can give you many other examples in which the United States supported certain groups to undermine a government here or a government there, and then those groups turned against the United States itself.
欢迎回来。叙利亚大使穆斯塔法他在叙利亚内部是一位非常资深而且受人敬重的外交官。他曾经担任叙利亚驻美国大使8年之久，所以这次叙利亚当局把他调到中国来当大使，很显然的，叙利亚当局已经很明白，今后叙利亚问题要得到解决这个中国扮演的不可或缺的角色。那么接下来我们再听这个穆斯塔法大使来进一步分析目前的这个叙利亚内部的状况到底是怎么样。
叙利亚危机自2011年3月爆发以来，已造成超过3万人死亡，120万人流离失所。联合国统计显示，数百万叙利亚人逃亡到约旦、土耳其、黎巴嫩等邻近国家。有分析师认为，宪法权力的缺失和政治腐败是叙利亚危机发生的主因，然而教派冲突则是其爆发的深层原因。官方统计数据显示，在叙利亚的穆斯林人口中，逊尼派占8成，什叶派占2成。主导巴沙尔·阿萨德政府的阿拉维派是什叶派的分支，约占其人口的3/4。
So what's the real situation or the problem inside Syria now?
It is a very simple problem. First, it is not a political conflict between forces of change and forces that are against change. The Syrian government has clearly accepted political change and political transformation, and we have already moved forward on this. The real problem is the fight between the legitimate forces of the Syrian state, the Syrian government, and forces who really want to dismantle the Syrian social legal fabric, who will cause the disintegration of Syria and maybe the division of Syria into smaller secular, factional, non-secular entities.
So now some reports from the Western media said that the rebels inside themselves, they admit that so many divided factions inside, and so they're trying to reorganize those rebels. Do you see any success of this?
Absolutely not. Those who are fighting inside Syria today have two major fundamental problems. I'm talking about their organization. First, they do not belong to one single organization.
Right.
They do call themselves the Syrian Free Army, but this is a myth. Such a Syrian myth army as an organization does not exist. There are almost 300 autonomous groups, totally independent. Each one of them has his own warlord and his own emir, and they are absolutely free to do whatever they want without any coordination with any other faction. First. Second, they belong to different ideologies. It's not only an organizational problem. Some of them are Muslim Brotherhood, which is a political party, the same political party that is very active across our region. Some of them belong to Al-Qaeda. They call themselves Nusrat al-Sham, the Nusrat al-Islam. Some of them are mercenaries. They are just fighting because they are getting money from Qatar, and Qatar is paying them lots of money. Some of them are not even Syrians. We have captured many Afghans, many Libyans, many Somalis, many Saudis. They come from different nationalities. The West can do whatever it wants, can say whatever it wants to say, but they can never ever bring these groups into one organization because they are inherently from different backgrounds and ideologies.
Mr. Ambassador, for all the countries around this area who supply the money and weapons to gangs or rebels, what they up to? What's inside the intention?
Different agendas. As far as Turkey is concerned, as I have told you, Mr. Erdogan believes that he will become the leader of the new Islamic political regimes across the region, and he is very ambitious about this. But other states like Saudi Arabia, by providing money to Mujahideen to go to fight in Syria across the region, they believe that they are doing an intelligent, clever game in which instead of these Mujahideen coming and fighting in Saudi Arabia against the Saudi regime, they pay them money and they tell them go and fight in Syria. And for them, they think it's a win-win game. If the Syrian government will kill them, then they are happy because these Mujahideen will come back and fight in Saudi Arabia. Or if they win, well, they will not really win. They will be depleted in a very long struggle. So Saudi Arabia is happily financing these groups, these arms. Qatar is doing the same. Qatar is looking for influence and for controlling the region just because they have money. They don't believe that they want to spread freedom or democracy across the Arab world, because in Qatar itself you don't have freedom, you don't have democracy, you don't have a constitution, you don't have any political parties in Qatar, which is not the same in Syria. In Syria you have political parties who are in opposition, who function freely under the Syrian constitution. But the Qataris, who have a huge amount of money, believe that because of this money they can buy off, and by financing those rebels they can control the outcome of the events in a country like Syria.
2012年8月6日，刚刚上任2个月的叙利亚总理西贾普宣布叛变并加入反对派，成为叙利亚危机爆发后最高级别的叛变官员。当日法新社即列出一份叙利亚叛变时间表，列举了自2011年3月以来叛离叙利亚政府投靠反对派的政府及军方人员，其中叛变的军政要员人数预计已超17名。
I read some reports from the Western media says there are divisions within your ranks, the military and President Bashar's office. Is there any division now?
I don't believe there are any serious divisions, and the proof to this is that Syria has been suffering from an incredible attack against her from regional countries and from world powers like the United States, France, and United Kingdom. All the money paid by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, which is an incredible amount of money, and yet Arab Army, which is the national army of Syria, is still fighting a very valiant battle against those groups. And if you have individuals here or there who take amounts of money and dissent, this is reasonable and this is acceptable and it's within what is normal. All this is a part of the psychological warfare against Syria. I seriously believe that it's not about the government of Bashar al-Assad, it's about the Syrian people and how Syria regards herself. This is a battle for the future of the Syrian identity. Will we continue to be a secular country with modernistic ambitions and with a very strong a clear agenda for reform, or will we be degraded to become yet another example of Afghanistan? I believe this is the real battle between nationalists, seculars, progressives, and between Islamic political forces.
So, for near future, your country cannot keep this chaos and conflict inside your country forever. So, what do you do now?
We will continue doing what we have started doing a while ago, and we will continue to follow three parallel paths. On the ground, our national army will continue to battle against the terrorist groups, and we will defeat them. As I said, we have no other option. This is the only alternative for us. We cannot tolerate armed gangs wreaking havoc in our country. This is the first track. The second track is we have started and we will continue, we will not halt a major program for political and social reforms in Syria. We will continue doing this and we will continue moving forward. Syria has already been transformed and it will continue to move forward in a democratic process in which the Syrian people will decide the future of Syria, not the Emir of Qatar or the Prime Minister of Turkey. The future of Syria will be decided by the people of Syria through political process, through political dialogue, through elections, free elections, and through the expression of the national collective will of the Syrian people. The third track has to do with international diplomacy. We still depend on friendly countries like Russia, like China, like India, Brazil, South Africa. We hope they can use their political clout, political leverage with the Western powers to try to broker a political agreement. We understand that only when the regional powers will stop sending money and arms to the terrorist groups, we will be able of completely restoring law and order to Syria. If Turkey today closes the training camps of those terrorist groups and prevent them from crossing the borders, 90% of the violence in Syria will disappear. And the rest will be very, very little, and it can be managed in a very short period of time. So as you can see, the external factor is the overwhelmingly most important factor in the Syrian crisis today.
在叙利亚问题的解决方面呢，西方国家尤其是美国还抱着一个他们非常霸道的一个想法，就是一定要逼叙利亚总统阿萨德下台。大家记得在10月22号美国总统两位候选人最后一次辩论当中啊，两个人奥巴马跟罗姆尼都一再的表示叙利亚问题要得到和平的解决，一定要阿萨德总统下台。可是这种说法啊，我相信今天的这个穆斯塔法大使跟我们已经讲得很明白。现在他们叙利亚当局一再坚持的一个立场，就是我们叙利亚的问题要由我们的人民，我们叙利亚的人民去解决，而不是听命于美国或是其他的国家，一定要怎么样才能达到这个叙利亚的内乱的解决。所以我们从穆斯塔法大使的谈话当中，我们也或多或少了解其中的这个症结何在，也了解土耳其为什么在这个时候要参入叙利亚的问题。所以相信我们跟穆斯塔法大使之间的这样谈话呢，让大家对叙利亚的问题有一个比较深入的了解。感谢您收看今天的风云对话，我们7天之后再见。